Hey, I got 5 frugal living tips to help you save money, so stay tuned. Frank Thomas here from Wealth Generation Strategies, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about frugality. Yes, it's the word I struggle with. I did mention this in the video last week, but I felt that there was a few things that I didn't mention in the other video that I think these are great things to know. But this is more focused on frugal living, like things you can do in your day-to-day life to help you save money. Because baby, at the end of the day, if you can have lower bills, you can save more. In other words, your expenses are lower, you can save more. My earlier video this week shows that in reality, and I'll make sure I link that at the very end. And also too, the bonus is going to be a bonus on frugal living on points that I've instituted that have saved me a whack of cash. They're things you don't think about, so you must stay tuned right to the end. I'm not going to tell you anything about that until we get to the end of the whole video here, so make sure you stick to them for that one. They're really good points. You're going to like them. I love them. Anytime I can save a few bucks, I'm thrilled. It's not that I want to be cheap. That's something I mentioned in the other video that I did last week when I talked about frugality, is being frugal and being cheap are two different animals. Being cheap means you don't spend any money and you're just a cheapskate. You're just cheap. But being frugal means being wise with your money. And I went through a lot of the high-end points in the last video. If you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. I wanted to kind of cover some things here that hopefully don't tread the same ground that I talked about before. Things you can do in your day-to-day life and living to live more frugally so you can reduce those expenses. So let's start right away with number 1 is reduce any expense that you have to a minimum. And I know I mentioned that a bit in the last video, but I'm going to cover this in a lot more depth. Now, there's 3 things you can do with every expense that you got. Sometimes it's very hard. Actually, I'm sitting there thinking about it. Let's investigate that. You can negotiate, you can cancel, you can modify, okay? You can do one of those 3 things. Let's do the modification first. Modifying a debt means what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to search for a better deal and do the same thing. A good example of that is I had internet services with our local big internet provider, and I decided eventually to cancel it because it was going to cost me $130 a month, and I got exactly the same internet from a second tier provider supplying the same services as the first tier provider. Now, what's the difference? I went from paying $130 a month to paying $55 a month. Now, it might not sound like much, but you start doing a few of these and all of a sudden you can save $1,000 a month because I've done it. When I left and sold my big house where I was living before and moved into a smaller house, I was able to reduce our overall bills by almost $1,000. And I wasn't even including the fact that I'm living in a smaller house because the house value was about the same. You can definitely modify by changing providers. The second thing is to negotiate. You can sit and talk to your bill collectors and say, is that the best deal you can do? Is that the best you can do? Is that the best thing I can do? I'll be straight up with you when it comes to things like car insurance and that. I'm not saying that they're evil or they're bad, but a lot of times, a lot of insurance companies really just want you to spend as much as possible. They don't really have a fiducial duty to help you save money. They have a fiducial duty to make sure you're insured, and they'll sell you as much insurance as you're willing to buy. So you always have to ask, should I really do that? I was carrying well over $1 million in life insurance, and we don't need it anymore. I carry, I think, about $600,000 worth, and even that's a little bit too much, and I'm going to be reducing that as time goes on. Immediately, right off the top, I was able to reduce my insurance cost for life insurance in half. That saves, at the age of 60, about $250 a month. Yeah, it makes that much of a difference. The final one is canceling. You know something? If you're not using it, cancel. And I did mention this in the other video, and I just can't stress it enough. Review your bills on a quarterly, half a year, yearly basis. Do I need this? Do I need that expense? I had an expense for a service that I was subscribing to, and I realized that I'm not using it, and it was $100 a month. It's gone. Okay, there you go. So reduce any expenses to a minimum, and there's lots of different ways you can do it. The second point is if you need to make larger purchases, make them wise purchases. Think about the long-term operational expense of what you're buying to maintain and use that device, whatever it is. For example, wife's car died. It just plumb died, couldn't be fixed. It just needs to go to the wreckers. It needs to go to car heaven. It's finished. And so I feel we got as much out of it as we can. We got 18 years out of it, and that's it. We went looking for another vehicle. I found that cars that were a little older had a lot of mileage on them, so a lot of life was already taken out of them, and I felt we were going to be in the same place, and we weren't really saving a lot of money. I really wanted to get a hybrid. Now, this is my point here. I went for a hybrid instead of a straight gas car. I don't feel comfortable with the electric option just yet. There's just too many unknowns. There's a little bit of the ability it takes a long time to charge it, as well as the cost of electricity is not cheap here, things like that. The hybrid's a nice mix, and it allows me to literally cut the gas bill in half. Believe it or not, we've owned a Camry, and it was a hybrid. We bought it about 8 years ago. Yes, I paid a fair amount of money for it back then, and even then I bought it used, but it's all paid for now, so it's great. And the Camry gives us about 6 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers, so close to 40 miles to the gallon. Most vehicles, same caliber, straight gas engines are almost double the gas mileage. Now, that's not the only expense here. That's something, and this, I didn't know this. All I could see was, well, I could save money on the price of gas, and I know gas is going to do nothing but go up. What happened was, I definitely saved at least about $200 to $300 a month in gas bills for the car, because I have to drive into town. My wife drives as well. So between the two of us, it's easy for us to spend $1,000 on gas in a month, which is nuts, but it's the truth. Gas in Canada is very expensive for the car. In the UK, if you're in the UK or a lot of British countries, petrol. I decided to make it a hybrid. Now, another place that we've saved a tremendous amount of money is the cost of maintenance on this car. I have over 240,000 kilometers on my Camry, and I've never changed the brakes, which means I've saved close to $2,500 in brake jobs over a standard car. I don't have a starter that can go. I have a CVT transmission, and their things are pretty much bulletproof, so this should last 500,000 kilometers without issue. The engine doesn't get a lot of wear. Now, I do make sure I do the oil changes on a regular basis. Don't be frugal there. Don't be cheap there. Let me rephrase it. Don't be cheap on oil changes. Just get them done, okay? But be wise. Another place, too, is in our solar panels. Like, we paid for solar panels because the price of electricity is doing nothing but going up. And since I put the solar panels on our new house, the price of electricity has doubled. I'm not teasing. Doubled, okay? The last thing is to look at appliances that you use less power. We bought an induction stove when our stove died a couple of years ago. And I found we saved about 5 to 10% on electricity bill. I was actually surprised how much. Another thing I'm looking into are heat exchange clothes dryers. I'm not sure if it's a great purchase yet. That I still have to do some research there, but it could save us. I know that a heat exchanger clothes dryer is about a third of the electricity usage as a standard dryer. Is it good or not? I don't know. I have no experience, but it is an option, and it's something you should consider if you're looking to get a dryer for drying your clothes. Look at all your large purchases, and even if you spend a little bit more on the front side, you might save a heck of a lot of money on the back side, and you can be frugal about it on the running costs of using that appliance or that whatever it is. Okay, next point here. Avoid impulse buying at all costs. This should go without saying, but if you want to live frugally and you want to save money, avoid impulse buying. If you walk into a store and you were not going in for something and you say, wow, that is so cool, I gotta have that. Go home. Just go home and think about it. If you're still pretty hot to trot in a couple days, go back and get it. If the sale's going to end, find out if you can return it. Now, that's a dangerous one because you probably won't. I'm just warning you. But I would say to you, avoid impulse buys at all costs. You would be surprised at how much you spend on a percentage basis of your income on impulse shopping. Yes, it happens. Okay, the next point, point number 4, is make a plan to invest into pre-tax income. A lot of people don't think about this, but this is a part of frugal living. Taxation is a real animal in your life, and you can't get away from taxation. If you make income, you're going to get taxed on it. Pretty much all governments give you the ability to save money, pre-tax money, in a tax savings account. So let's say in Canada, it's called an RRSP. In the United States, I believe it's called a 401k. So it's money that goes into it before taxation, and there are limits on how much you can put in. But this is why I put this into the frugal living. If you are getting paid $1, by the time all the taxes come off, you might get 70 cents. Yeah, 30% is usually gone. If you put it into that tax advantaged account, you save $1. You don't save 70 cents, you save $1. And you reduce your overall tax load because they don't consider it taxable income until you take it out in the future. Now, what's the advantage of that? You know, you want to make as much as you can right now. In your working years, you want to work hard and you want to make as much as you can. So one day you can take the money out, you can pay off all your debts, you can save enough money that you can actually live off that money, and then you could reduce how much you're taking out, because by then you should be all set up and your need for income should be reduced significantly. It's kind of the idea behind it. This increases your ability to save exponentially, because right out of the kick, you can save 30% more, and boy, it makes a big difference down the road. Now, I do take advantage of RRSPs in Canada and TFSAs. Now, RRSP is a registered retirement savings plan. TFSA is a tax-free savings account. They're slightly different, and in the States, I know they're called a 401k and a Roth IRA. Again, they're a little different in the States, and they're a little different in all different countries. Some countries have these accounts, some of them don't. They usually have some form of these accounts. In Canada, I can't put pre-tax money into a TFSA, but any income that's generated or any gains that are, I'm not going to call it income because the government doesn't consider it income. Any gains that I get in my TFSAs are not taxed because they don't consider that income. So that is an advantage. So any dollar I save there, and if it makes another $2 in 10 or 15 or 20 years, I can take it all out. I don't pay taxes on any of it, which is brilliant. So that's something to think about. Hey, before we get to our bonus, I hope you are enjoying this video. I enjoy giving you these frugal living tips. You're gonna love the bonus. But before you listen to the bonus, subscribe. Baby, subscribe, man. I want you to subscribe so I can give you all my best. So do it right now. I'm gonna wait. Okay, you've subscribed? Awesome. Okay, let's get into the bonus. I see people do that and I think, wow, what the guy's a meathead, and I just did it myself. So there, I'm a meathead too. There you go. You're going to love these things because these are little frugal living tips that I've discovered that really are awesome. The biggest expense that I have found in my house is my central air conditioning. Oh, my shattered nerves. You turn that thing on and I can feel the $100 bills come out of my wallet. And I'm not joking. When I run the air conditioner and I'm not doing it wisely, I can easily spend between $8 and $15 a day in cooling my house down. No lie. I actually measured it and looked at the cost. Even though I have solar panels on the roof and everything, that thing inhales electricity. It inhales more than my panels can make. And even if I'm having a great day and I'm generating a lot of power, that air conditioning just draws the power. But I'll tell you something, in Alberta, we can have 2 or 3 weeks of the year and it just gets insufferably hot here. It gets really hot and it's uncomfortable. I don't want to sit here and stew in my own juices. And more so, my wife doesn't want to stew in her juices and I hear about it and I don't want to hear about it. So I was like, okay, how can I mitigate and have a cool house, but have my cake and eat it too, so to speak? And what I discovered is early in the morning, the house is cool because it cools down in the evening. So what I would do is our house faces east to west. I'd open up the front windows of my office and I'd open up the back screen door out the back so the wind would blow through the house and it would cool the house down to a comfortable temperature. Really, actually almost a little cool, which is nice. And as soon as the air outside hit about 21 degrees Celsius or about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I close all the windows and then I turn on the air conditioning. I would also ensure that I didn't have the air conditioning set to the same temperature as the furnace. Big mistake. What happened is the air conditioning was coming on lower and trying to keep the house cooler, and it's actually cold in the house. So what I did was I adjusted the air conditioning up just a few degrees, around 20, 21, 22 degrees. It's warm, but it's not hot. It's tolerable, so it's not bad. And I would run the air conditioning from about 10 o'clock until maybe about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I wouldn't have to run it all day. Now, the interesting thing was, because I've already pre-cooled the house down, the air conditioning barely came on. It was just maintaining a temperature. It wasn't trying to bring the temperature back down. At nighttime, as soon as about 4 o'clock hit, air conditioning gets shut off and all the windows get open up, same routine. And even at nighttime, I leave some of the windows open in the front and back and let that air pass through, and it saved me a lot of money. It really did. It saved me a lot of money. So that's a little tip, and I found that really helped out a lot. It literally reduced my expenses on the air conditioning down to about $2 a day. So and it was just as comfortable. For us, because we have solar panels, I've made the investment in solar panels. I make sure that whenever we do laundry, because the dryer is the second biggest user of electricity in the house, I make sure we do laundry during the light of day. So as the solar power is being generated, we think about electricity and we think, oh, we pay so much per kilowatt hour or whatever it is. But you also pay delivery fees too. In Alberta, delivery fees are $2 and the electricity is $1. It doesn't make any sense, I know, but that's the way it is. I make sure that we use the power that's generated from the sun and not pulled from the grid, and it saves me $3 a kilowatt. And that dryer can inhale $5 to $10 worth of electricity over the course of a wash cycle, like 2 wash cycles. So that's another way. And you're going to like this one. This is a great one. And this one here saves us a lot of money. Watch the local gas stations for 2 things, because gasoline in your car can eat up a lot of your operating capital. Avoid buying gas before weekend or on the weekend. Wait until Sunday. It's better to buy gas on a Wednesday than it is a Sunday. You'll actually find a lot of gas stations will run specials on a Wednesday and give you gas 2 or 3 cents a liter cheaper. Now you think 2 or 3 cents a liter, what difference does that make? Well, it's about 10, 15, 20 cents a gallon difference. Like, I don't know how it equates, but our filling up the gas tank, it could save for each vehicle about $10 a week. So it's not a huge amount of money, but I'd rather have $10 to go to the movies than put into my tank, and I still get the same drivability. So it's another way to save. And all these saving a penny here, saving a penny there, without being cheap, of course, always trying to live a nice life, will save us a tremendous amount of money. So I hope you've enjoyed these tips. I've enjoyed bringing them to you. They are things that we live by. They work really well. And if you haven't seen the first frugality video, then you can go take a peek at it. It's in my playlist. But I'm linking today's video to the one I did earlier this week. And it's all about tips for living a debt-free life and thriving. So be sure to check that out. I've enjoyed putting that video together, and I think you'll find that there's a lot of good tips in there that really fit well even with this video. So go check it out. If you don't, hey, great to have you here, and I'm glad you're still with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Otherwise, go take a peek at that video. I promise you it'll be worth your while. See you then. Bye-bye.